Hello and welcome to the next tutorial on the microARRANGER. This is tutorial number 2. In tutorial number 1 I showed you how to do a performance and to use the microARRANGER in its fullest potential by switching instruments, doing fills, variations, and playing it in a very dynamic way. Well, today I'm going to explain the front panel controls. As you can see, you can't see the display because I can't get the front panel and the display to show up on the same camera setting because it's just either one's going to be too dark or too light. So in the next tutorial we're going to focus in on the display, and I'm going to show you what the display is showing on programming. But today I just want to explain the front panel buttons, because this is the most important part of getting rid of the confusion people are having with this keyboard. People are confused about why this doesn't work this way, why this doesn't work. And it's because there's a couple of buttons on here that are very important, and the rest of them are kind of self-explanatory. So we're going to start in the program mode over here. Now these buttons here, we have a choice of 5. We have style, play, song, play, backing sequence, or BSEQ, song, and program. Today we're only going to be using the program choice and the style choice. And right now the program button's lit. Now while the program button's lit, that means we can't play styles. All I can play is one tone, whatever tone is displayed on here, which is acoustic piano dark. That's what's being displayed. So the program mode is the very simplest mode of all. All it is something where we can play the entire keyboard with one sound. So in program mode, all we're doing is picking out a sound. Now program mode gets much deeper when you select the menu button and you go in and actually edit that sound. So while not in the edit mode, the program mode is the simplest function on this keyboard, and that is just playing a sound. So all we're going to do is select a sound. Now you'll notice in program mode I hit performance, style change, single touch. None of these things light up. While in program mode over here, we are simply locked in to this one instrument, which means this column here, which has program and performance written over the top, we are now in the program mode, which means in program mode, that means piano, electric piano, those can be selected at this time. So if I select accordion and I try to play an accordion, you go, what's going on? It's not an accordion. Well, these are a category. We're selecting an accordion category, but in the display you'll see 8 choices, and what plays is what's actually on top, and what's on top is a dark piano. But these 4 buttons on the side and these 4 buttons on the side select the 4 on the left and 4 on the right instrument. So if I select one now, now you can hear it playing my selection, and you will see the selection displayed in a main window up here. And again, like so, in the next tutorial we're going to zoom in on the display, and I'm going to show you how the display reacts to the button pushes. But right now you need to get used to what the buttons do. So the biggest confusion is these are categories, and then you need to select something within that category to actually get the sound. So there's the strings. Now I want an organ. I select organ. I come up here. I take my choice of 8. And that was a dark jazz organ. Now, within these choices of 8, there's also subcategories you may not see. So if I keep hitting the organ button, I can see, oh, there's another selection of 8, another selection of 8, a fourth selection, a fifth, and then back to the original. So there's within this organ 1 category, and there's an organ 2 too, but within the organ 1 category, there are actually 5 pages of choices. And you can get that by selecting that. Or you can come up to this page. You'll see this page plus minus at the top of the buttons here. If you can use that to change the pages. And I'll show you later, but in the display on the far right it actually says page, and it tells you what page you're on. So I know I'm on page 1, 2, 3. So page 3, my 8th selection. It's called a dark organ. So in the future, I know where that's at. So if I'm over here in piano and I'm playing a harpsichord, and I want to go back to that same organ, I hit organ 1, and then I go to my organ page 3, and I'm back to that same place. So you can find your instruments fairly quickly that way. But it's not something you would do during a performance, and I'll be showing that in later tutorials of how to select instruments. In the first tutorial, I showed you how to do that with these single touch buttons. These 4 down here will allow you to bring in full setups of 4 stacked instruments, or 3 stacked instruments and 1 left instrument. And that's basically all there really is to program mode and selecting what sound you want. As I said, when you're in program mode and you go to the menu button here, then things get very, very deep, where you can actually change the tones of whatever you've got selected at the time. But while in program mode, we play only 1 tone at a time. In contrast to that, we have the performance mode, which isn't lighting up. Why is that? Because we have to switch modes over here. We have to switch to style play. Now that we're in style play, all these buttons become active. Everything on here, include everything becomes active. So now there's a lot more buttons to know. So if you wanted to use this keyboard as just a sound device for individual instruments, it's a very simple keyboard to use. And it's actually a very simple keyboard to use as a style playing instrument too. Now I think as a default, when you turn the Korg on, it comes up automatically in style play. So you'll need to switch to program play if you want to play just those individual instruments and select instruments. So now that we're in style play, we have a lot of different options here. For one, the first thing, since we're in style play, is we're going to want to select a style. And we have an upper and a lower, and upper words and lower words, so it depends on where this LED is at. So if the LED on top, it's beat 1. And again, it's a 2-step process, just like it is here, like it was to select an instrument. When you select an instrument, you select your instrument, then you come up here and you have the 8 choices. Same with the style change. I selected beat 1, but I have to come over here and select something. So I'm going to select that soft beat. And if I play a chord before I hit start, such as a C major, it will automatically start in C major. If I play C minor, or let's go to D minor, it'll automatically start in D minor. C minor. F major. Now why didn't it do the F major? Because I played the F major so high up, it was at the split point. To get the microARRANGER to recognize the chord you're playing, you have to play at least 3 notes. So I have to either invert that F major, and I'll invert it 1 step. So now I'm going to play the F major, and it will start on F major. And that works for the intros too. If I press C, there's a C major. I press the intro. Now when I start, it will start the intro in C major. There's an introduction on that beat, so I'm going to change it for illustration purposes. So there was a C. Let's try a F minor. And again, I can't play that. I have to invert it. So we're going to play let's play a D minor and see if we can get the intro to start on a D minor. Okay, C major. D minor. So as you can hear, whatever chord's played last, that's where the intro will start, and if you're not using the intro, that's just where whatever variation you got will start. You can pick any variation you want to start. And that's how we start the rhythm. And of course, if you're not familiar with how a rhythm or arrangers work, you simply play a chord, and a chord has to have at least 3 notes in it. And whatever chord you play, the accompaniment will follow. Now obviously the drums are not pitched. You can pitch drums, but these they will not change pitch, obviously. So, and that's simply how an arranger works. You play a chord, it automatically accompanies you. Now, when you make chord changes, whether those chord changes outside of the measure will work, it depends on the arrangement a lot of times. Let's try making the chord changes in the middle of a measure. This particular arrangement allows it, but some of the arrangements are multi-measures long, and you'll have to get to know the arrangement as to whether you can change those chords whenever you want. A lot of those arrangements will only allow you to, well, you can change them anytime you want, but if the arrangement's got 3 measures in it, you may get a rough break when you change chords. But in this particular one, and it all works on the left hand below these split points. And the split point in this arrangement is middle C. And if you come over to these buttons here, these also become very important now. Because now, if split is lit, that means we're playing a different instrument on the left hand than we are the right hand. Now, after we select our category and we select which of the 8 named choices we want, if you hit the exit button, the display will now show you, and like I said, I'll show you this in the next tutorial, the display only. The display shows you on the left side, it shows you your drum, bass, and the accompaniment. And the accompaniment can be up to 5 different instruments. So you have 5, it could be 1 to 5 instruments, and then you have the bass, and then you have the percussion. And on the right side, it's showing you what instruments you can select. And as you can see, the flute selected, but at any time I can add a piano to that flute, or I can turn the flute off, play just the piano, or I can play a different kind of piano. And the last one of the four is the split, and I could turn that on or off. So let's go back to the original setting of the because these are lit up here, we have a split lit up. Now, just because the split's on doesn't mean we have to use it. If I go to full upper, now the flute's being played across the entire keyboard. Now, of course, these lower octaves, the flute's not supposed to be played there, but I'm just illustrating right now. So, at any time during a style play, we can switch to a full upper, which is good for a piano and a lot of other instruments too. So, this split and full upper buttons over here are in accordance to the chord scanning buttons next to it. We have a lower and upper in the chord scanning. And what that means is, while I'm on full keyboard, it's also scanning lower and upper. That means you can hear the accompaniment following the chords on my right hand. But because this is a full keyboard, it will, no matter where I play it, the chords are recognized. Now, when we go to split, that means these buttons here can be switched. So, yeah, let me check my video time here. How are we doing on time? 17 minutes. Okay. Now, in split mode, these two chord scanning buttons can be switched on and off during your style play. So right now, the lower is lit. That means I play anything on the upper, it doesn't recognize a chord. And remember, the chord has to be 3 notes. But if I play on the bottom, it's recognizing chords below the split point. Now I can change that to just the upper. Now it's reading the upper, but it will not read chords on the lower. You can hear because we have the split voice turned on, you can hear that, but it's not actually changing the style. It's not actually changing the accompaniment pitched instruments in the style, like it does on the upper right now. I hope you can hear the pitched instruments in the style accompaniment changing as I change the chords. So we have 3 choices here. We can have just the lower, just the upper, or in full we can have both. And that means it'll recognize across the entire keyboard. So while in split, so that means in the lower, that's normally where you play. But if I switch, and you don't have to stop when you switch, I'm just talking. Now when I switch to the upper, now I'm going to play chords with the upper, and I can play like a bass line or something with the lower. So the lower is using the strings. You can say, well, I can barely hear those strings. Well, at any time you can come in here, select that split, and by just holding down a button, I can turn I can make those louder. So now, with the upper lit, I can actually play with my left hand and chord with the right. So there's so many different options here. So I'm going to go back to the more normal play where you're chording on the left. I'm going to turn that string back down again. Now changing to the volume of the string is probably not something you would do during a performance. This is something you would set up ahead of time and then save as your performance. So let's go through these variations in keys here. I think most people know how to use these, but I'm going to just go through these real quickly on how to. We have the variations, we have fill-ins, we have a count-in break, ending intros, and a fade-out. And they're all pretty obvious. We'll start with the fade-out. And it simply just fades out, which is really a nice way to end a song if you don't want to use the built-in ending. I'm not going to wait till the ending finishes. It was 4 measures long. And that's one of the things you need to discover. Each one of these styles are set up all completely different. The ending may be 1 measure long and maybe 8 measures long. You don't know. You have to get to know your styles. So that in this case, ending number 1 was 4 measures long. It's actually 5 measures long. I can see that in the display. Ending 2 and ending 2 was 6 measures long. And the same with the fill-ins, and the same way with the variations. All of them can be a different number of measures long before they go back and repeat and loop back. So we know to start an intro, we can do synchro starts too. So these buttons over here, labeled start, stop, reset, it says delete and insert underneath. On top it says synchro. So right next to the start stop is the synchro. So if I select synchro, select an intro, and press start, it kind of defeats the purpose. With synchro on, I select an intro. Now when I play the first chord, it's automatically all going to sync up and you're going to get it right in on the intro. And that's a nicer way to stop, or a nicer way to begin your song. You can begin it right on the chord, but you don't have to. You can do it like I said earlier. You can play your chord first, hit start, stop, and it'll start on that chord. Even the intro will start on that chord. Or without the intro, it'll start on the chord anyway. And the only thing left now is we got fill-ins and we have variations. Now the fill-ins can be hit at any time. Unfortunately, they are not programmed to start at the beginning of the measure. It seems to be this way on a lot of keyboards. every arranger keyboard I played so far, the fill-ins do not begin at the beginning of a measure, which makes them very difficult to use because it means you have to hit them at the exact time of the beginning of the measure, and I don't understand that. Hopefully I can find that somewhere in the programming that will allow me to change those, but so far I haven't. So let's do a fill-in and try hit it at the right time, because what you normally do is hit the fill-in and then before you go to the next variation, so it gives a more professional sound to it. So let's hit the fill-in for the chord. And you can hear what I did. There's another option where you can hit the ending and you can still even fade out the ending if you want. So the 4 variations is really nice to have, and the way most of these arrangements are, one, the arrangements get more complex as the number goes up. So 2 and 3 and 4 are more complex than the numbers before it. And couple more features. These pads over here can be programmed to a lot of different settings. So under this pop beat, they have 4 sounds in here. Now unfortunately you can't put you don't have the choice of every single sound in here, which is like 600 to 800 different sounds. There's a list of about 128 that you can use. And as you can see in the first tutorial, I didn't even use sounds. I actually programmed them to turn instruments on and off. And that's probably what you would do too, because the sounds are pretty much limited to just a few special effects and things like that. So the best use for the pad is actually to control your sounds, because hitting these buttons here during a performance to turn on and off sounds is a lot more difficult than this front panel turning them on and off here. So I've showed you about everything on here except for this manual bass, and we'll get to that on the next tutorial. So that's the front panel buttons for program mode and style mode. And on the next tutorial we're going to zoom in on a display, and I'm going to show you how that displays when you hit these buttons and all the programming that you can do with these buttons.